It was viral during the week, or recently, not even during the week, it's been for a while. Some domestic help who literally tortured a child who was 2 years old, and that maid was doing something to the child. Where is she coming from? What happened to her? I read her statement this week. She said, oh, she was abused by the mother, or the mother abused the child too. So all of those things, that's what we want to talk about. Get a choice to choose your family, because family sort of happens to you. You can't determine where you're born, who gives birth to you, all of that. And while you grow in that family, those experiences determine your perception of life, your view of how it should be. And it's so critical that there is some nurturing that goes on per time. Once a child is born, you have to physically feed the child, then you also have to feed the child how he should see the world, so it takes us to the point of nurturing. And everybody says, I have my own method, I do things my way, my children understand. Some people say, in those days when your parents talk to you, all they need to do is look at you, they don't say anything. And then some say, your mom will slap you. So we're trying to look at the balance between nurturing, discipline, and abuse.
We all know that children are vulnerable, so they look up to the adults that they find themselves with, for guidance, for protection, for provision, for love, for affection, and for care, for everything. And then when you realize that these children are very vulnerable, their perception about life comes from the first few, the first few years of their lives and the people who are present in their lives in those years. So when you're talking about nurturing, it's such a huge deal, because nurturing, you can't talk about nurturing without talking about affection, without talking about love, without talking about discipline. We are talking about setting boundaries. But in the process of setting boundaries and being, disciplining a child and showing affection and all of that, what are the paradigms? What are the things that should be in place in order not to abuse or overstep the idea of nurturing? There's positive nurturing and there's negative nurturing.
Nurturing is about conditioning. You're talking about conditioning. You can actually have negative reinforcement, which is what we're talking about. Which is what we're talking about when you say negative nurturing. So it's possible because, like you were talking about boundaries, it's part of nurturing a child. You're supposed to set boundaries for the child, and the child is supposed to know that these are the boundaries and the consequences and all that. I had to. When you started, I went to go and what I read about was when does discipline become abuse? That's the angle I decided to read it from and study about it. And it's so important that it's as adults, your responsibility is you have to protect the children that are in your space, that are in your care. They don't have to belong to you. They can be your children, they can be your nieces, your nephews, or they can just be a random child you see playing on the street and something, but you're supposed to have an overview to protect and to keep them safe. That is what our responsibilities are as adults. And when the adult becomes the hunter, becomes the person that has violated our trust, that is when it becomes the most heinous of crimes, because when the child is supposed to be taken care of, you're supposed to be protecting, you are now preying on the child. That's when it is. When I watched that video, I cried because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. How can a whole 20-something-year-old step? She stepped and she was stamping on the child. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I was like, this is so horrible.
I blame the parents. Why do I blame the parents? Because child neglect is also a form of child abuse.
Yes.
When you don't know what is happening, and maybe I should even give kudos to the father, because he must have decoded for him to have set up a nanny cam. But when you don't really pay attention to what's going on with your child, and you just give the responsibility to somebody else, trusting that, well, what can they do to my child? You know, that's neglect. And even if that child is not suffering in your hands, indirectly that child is suffering in your hands, because that child will grow up and say, why was my mom not there to protect me when this person was abusing me? What was so important outside that my parents couldn't defend me from this abuse?
I believe that all of us are mirrors of where we're coming from. We're reflections of our experiences. We perceive things based on our experiences. And you know, we interpret things based on our experiences. And that's why I would say it's not so difficult to decode where that herself is coming from. She's got a story that mirrors what she's playing out.
Yeah.
You know, it may not be physical. Trust me.
Yeah.
As they say, a seed never reproduces exactly the same measure. It multiplies. It may not have been in that form. It may just have been somebody hitting her head every morning, saying you're no good, no gooder, you can't do anything, or you're dumb. You know, and the thoughts, the words will be multiplied internally, and then they reproduce hate, they reproduce venom, and she looks for an outlet. And what would be more beautiful than an outlet that cannot attack you back? Do you understand? What are you trying to achieve when you're disciplining your child?
People would say that their motivation is love, but in the implementation, it looks nothing like love. There's no predictability in your discipline. When a child is in an environment where they don't know what to expect from the caregiver, it's a dangerous place to be in. Because you're thinking, I can't predict this person. I don't know what behavior will set this person on fire. You spoke about boundaries. If there are no clear boundaries and you're just reacting because of, I don't know, maybe you're frustrated about your life, and the next thing you get a bounce, you know, you're afraid, so you're living in fear. But if there's a set boundary, I don't want you to do this because of this, the child understands and interprets that my mom or my dad is saying I shouldn't do this because of love, and I know that when I do this, then I'll be disciplined.
Why? Do you get?
When it's a parent or the caregiver, whether it's a parent, biological or foster parent, or an aunt that's now the caregiver, that's now the primary caregiver of a child, and the person is a person actually violating, actually doing the abuse, there's no other way I can put it, that's the highest form of betrayal and violation in this world, because that's where the child gets a frame of reference. We are supposed to protect our children, and we're supposed to teach in the nurture. We're supposed to teach the children. So now that we know that there is abuse and it's rampant and it's going on in society, it's left to us. The onus is on us to protect the children, and we have to teach the children what to permit, what to allow, what to say no to, and how to say, because that is our responsibility no matter where we are. We are supposed to teach the children that no, if this uncle wants to put you on his lap, no,
say no.
Say no. You're not supposed to do this, no. If this person wants to do this to you and he'll give you candy and say, it's our responsibility. We're supposed to educate and teach our children, and thereby protect them, because we have no choice. It's our responsibility to take care and to protect and just nurture and take care of these children. So we're supposed to.
What is the content that you're even trying to instill? Some parents haven't even defined what that is. You know, they're talking about, because they're used to saying, oh, when I did this, my parents beat me. You haven't even defined the kind of child you want to have. What are those lessons you want your child to take? You know, what are the values that you want to pass on? Those are the things that should inform how you address that child. So in spanking your child, in hitting your child, all those negative things you say, they don't add up, because you're not saying anything to the child.
Neglect is one thing that, yes, there are no marks. You're not beating a child.
But I work 24 hours. My husband and I have
No.
Like, all those things are there.
I will keep hampering on neglect. You know why? Because it's not enough to say I don't beat my child. It's not enough to say, well, I don't abuse my child, or I don't say negative words to my child. If you are not even around for that child to learn anything from you, you have no right. When that child takes to the streets, you have no right.
because you're supposed to plan your
Yes.
family. Excuse me, before you say
No,
you're
no,
not around
no,
20
no,
She's just trying to get
You
into
wait, I'm just trying to tell you
the
people
excuses
that in
of what people would
stating
say.
this, please consider our conditions.
We should consider our conditions, but when we're having the children, we should consider the condition and plan accordingly.
Because it's not fair. If you don't want to have a child, don't have a child.
have a child.
You're
What if I accidentally get pregnant?
That is your business. You either adopt the child, give the child out for adoption.
Come on, Tyro, that's not realistic.
See, I'm trying to be realistic here because I have realized that you spoke about values just now, Yemi.
Yeah.
I'll land. You spoke about values just now. When you're not even around to pass on the values.
Yes.
And the child now grows up. No, the child grows. Your values might not be your mother's. Exactly.
You're not a mother. You just have a child.
Because yes, you want to be a successful man or woman, a mother and father. You want to be successful. That's fine.
Excuse me,
but
correction. That person is not a mother or a father if you're not taking care and nurturing the child.
Thank you.
You are just a baby factory.
It's not about beating a child. It's about because the thing is, children are very intelligent.
Yes.
They already have personalities from when they came
Are you a
out.
clown?
From day one. So a child is observing you. The fact that you are not around to look at the homework, the fact that you don't say anything to them, you don't tell them about your day, you don't listen to what they have to say, it shows that you don't care about them. You might come and give them 5 naira, 10 naira or a wristwatch. They don't value that. What they value is your time.
No, let me make it softer. See, not that you don't care, but you need to revisit the structure of your life. You know why?
Neglect is neglect, Yemi.
Neglect is neglect. Yeah, you may have. No, let me tell you. Sometimes your realities happen to you. Sometimes
True.
You're dealing with this. Okay, for instance,
So what do
we
you
get
do about
chill,
it when you're in that
chill.
situation?
No, wait, let me just plan, please. We get married today. We tell ourselves, okay, we're not even ready financially to have a baby. We're just starting up and all of that. And then all of a sudden, I get pregnant. We've used what's it called, contraceptives and etc. to even effect those measures. I get pregnant and I have a child. You're working. Maybe you work in a bank. I work in another organization that requires me to be out of the house. Our parents are working because these days parents are chill now. Parents are not as available as they used to be, because they're still working out their lives. So we don't are bothered about nanny. So we put them in a crash or we get one nanny. We don't know. Chill. Let me plan. See, those are the reality.
Yeah.
Telling people that or saying that I don't care is unfair.
Okay,
because
so
I may truly care.
No, based on your
but
reality,
I don't know how to manage.
Based on your reality that you just painted, like Shay said, it's the quality of time. If you spend whatever time you find to spend with that child, if that quality is there, that child will know that my mother loves me.
We have a responsibility, no matter how life happens to you.
Yeah.
You have a responsibility. That's the bottom line. The thing is that we know life happens, but in that life, there's another life that is very, very important and is key. And you have to do everything you can to protect and to make sure that child is safe, to teach, to nurture, and just to make sure the child has everything possible.
I love the passion in shades.
Yeah, let me give one example. We have to go now though. A friend of mine was telling me that she, like what you said, life happened to her. She got a baby, and she had to work to be able to care for that child, and she was very pressured. So she left her child with her mother, only for her to come back, and then she realized that her mother, in her own wisdom, felt like the child was ill or something, and she took the child's hair, cut it inside and did an incision.
What?
Because
you never even really know. You really don't know what.
There was a time the mother wanted to go and do tribal marks for the child.
How about circumcision?
So if you are not there, you don't have a right to blame the mother. Why would you do this to my child? Because you were not even there.
We're talking about abuse in terms of physical act. But there's an abuse in not even showing up.
Yes.
There's abuse caused by inaction.
Yes.
There's abuse by action that's exceeding the reasonable bounds of force or whatever it is you're trying to instill. And there's abuse that results from no action at all.
Yes.
In effecting discipline in a child, what are you trying to? The content is what matters, because it's the content that will determine the end. And whatever measure you use, make sure that it is addressing that content and your child is nurtured.
You have to
People, we have to go. It's been such I don't know,
It's
fun.
intense.
Yeah.
Yes, I love Shay's passion. I mean, I love it. And Tyro's whatever.
Bye.